What if the biggest flaw of the internet wasn't some kind of bug, but a fundamental missing piece? A piece that, if we had it, could literally change everything about our digital lives. Well, today we're going to explore exactly that, the internet's missing trust layer, and the incredible global effort that's underway to finally build.
So, let's just get right to the heart of it. We live in a world of instant global connection, right? So why can't we truly trust anyone online without some big corporation playing middleman? The fallout from this broken system, well, it's everywhere.
For starters, it created these gigantic data silos. Think about it. Every time you sign up for a new service, you're handing over another little piece of your digital identity. All those pieces of you are now scattered, locked away in hundreds of different company databases.
And of course, these centralized honeypots of data, they're completely irresistible to criminals. This has fueled a straight-up epidemic of fraud and data breaches. It's kind of ironic, right? The very system designed to connect us has made us all incredibly vulnerable.
And when you add it all up, it leads to this fundamental loss of control. We've basically lost our say over our own digital lives. We're forced to rely on all these intermediaries for pretty much every important thing we do online. So, how on earth did we get here?
Well, the root of the problem goes all the way back to the internet's original design. It's something we can call the internet's trust paradox.
See, the internet's founding protocols, the stuff we call TCP/IP, they were designed to do one thing really, really well. Let any computer talk to any other computer. But they had a huge blind spot. They had no way to verify who was actually on the other end of the line. It was like a postal service that could deliver any letter to any address in the world, but had absolutely no way of checking who sent it. And that created a trust paradox we're still wrestling with today.
But what if we could go back and build that missing layer? What if we could weave trust right into the fabric of the internet itself? That's exactly the mission of a global group that's building a whole new architecture for trust.
And this is them, the Trust Over IP Foundation, or ToIP for short. They launched back in 2020, hosted by the Linux Foundation, which is a huge deal, by the way. And their mission? It's incredibly ambitious. To create a complete, open-source architecture for digital trust that can work for the entire internet.
And you should know, this isn't some small niche project. The momentum here is massive. They started with just 27 founding members, and now the ToIP Foundation has exploded to over 500 organizations and individuals, all collaborating to build this new infrastructure.
Okay, so TIP's core philosophy is just brilliant, mainly because it gets that technology alone can't solve this. They call it a dual-stack approach. On one side, you've got the dry code. That's all the tech stuff, the cryptography, the protocols. But on the other, just as important, you've got the wet code, and that's the human side of things. The policies, the legal agreements, the social rules that make the technology actually usable in the real world.
This whole dual-stack idea is baked into a 4-layer architecture. It's designed to work a lot like the original internet stack, but this time it's built for trust.
The whole model is shaped kind of like an hourglass with 4 layers stacked up. So let's build this thing from the ground up, starting with Layer 1, trust support.
Layer 1 is the bedrock. You can think of it like the public utilities for trust, things like blockchains. This is where we anchor our digital identities using something called decentralized identifiers, or DIDs. A DID is basically a digital ID that you and only you own and control, not some company. It creates that verifiable root of trust that the whole system needs.
Okay, next up is Layer 2, which is the narrow waist of our hourglass. Now, this layer is absolutely crucial because it's what makes everything work together. It uses a standard protocol that lets any 2 digital wallets or apps or agents talk to each other securely and privately with no middleman required. It's the universal connector. Layer 3 is where the real magic starts to happen for everyday life. This is the layer that defines the rules for specific trust tasks. So think about a university issuing you a digital degree, or the DMV issuing a digital driver's license. These are called verifiable credentials, and they let us prove things about ourselves digitally in a way that's secure and trustworthy. And finally, we get to Layer 4. This is where we, the actual users, interact with everything. We're talking about the applications, the banking apps, the healthcare portals, the travel websites, all built on top of this new trust infrastructure, and all governed by the specific rules of their ecosystem.
So let's just quickly put it all together. At the very bottom, Layer 1, you have the foundational tech like DIDs on blockchains. That supports Layer 2, the secure communication protocol. That in turn lets us use Layer 3, verifiable credentials, for all sorts of tasks. And it all comes together in Layer 4 in the apps we use every day. And remember, every single layer has both its tech And it's human governance, that dry code and wet code working together.
Okay, this all sounds really cool in theory, right? But is anyone actually using this stuff? The answer is a huge yes, and it's happening all over the globe.
For example, the entire nation of Bhutan is building its national digital ID system based on ToIP principles. In British Columbia, Canada, they're using verifiable credentials to make sustainability reporting for things like mining and forestry more trustworthy. And on a global scale, an organization called GLIF is creating verifiable digital IDs for corporations, which could completely revolutionize how businesses trust each other online.
But look, building a new trust layer for the entire internet is not going to be a walk in the park. It's not without its challenges and its debates. And just over the horizon is maybe the biggest challenge of all: artificial intelligence.
One of the big strategic debates actually comes from people who are deep in the trenches, like Kyle Robinson from that British Columbia project. He argues that trying to design these massive top-down trust ecosystems from day one might actually be the wrong way to go about it.
And this sparks a really critical debate. Should we try to build the whole city at once with all the rules and zoning laws figured out beforehand? That's the ecosystem-first approach. Or is it better to start by building one really useful thing, like a hospital or a power plant, a high-value credential, and let the city grow organically around it? It's that classic top-down versus bottom-up argument.
And while that debate is going on, the ToIP community is already sprinting toward the next frontier: AI. They're asking the really hard questions, like, in a world flooded with AI bots, how do we prove that you're actually a unique human being? They're calling this proof of personhood. And how do we safely give our AI agents the power to act on our behalf without them going rogue? These are the trust challenges that are going to define the next decade.
Which brings us to our final and maybe most important question. The trust architecture we've been talking about was designed for humans to trust other humans. But as autonomous AI agents start managing our money, our schedules, and our digital lives, the real test will be building a framework that lets us control who or what they are allowed to trust. The entire future of how we interact with technology might just depend on getting this right.